Hello and welcome to FinextraTV. I'm Alex Lippic and you join us at this Diebold Nixdorf Intersect 2026 event here in Cannes. And kindly joining me in the studio today is Regis Folbaum, CEO of STET. And we're going to be discussing SEPA challenges and also growth over recent years. It's great to see you, Regis. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And what a great event to be a part of as well.
Great, making connections, networking, thought-provoking leadership, so very interesting.
Absolutely. I'm going to start off by setting the scene, if I may. Are the current geopolitical tensions that we're all experiencing at the moment actually bringing SEPA nations closer together, would you say? Let's start there.
So the great news is SEPA has been here for a long time. It turns out to be the backbone of the current walletization of payments. And if you were to look into the rear mirror, you'd say, how forward-looking has the legislator been by, impulsing, decreting, and enforcing and deploying SEPA, obviously with the support of the banks. So I'm not sure that the current stalemate or chaos or geopolitical pressure is bringing more alignment to SEPA, because SEPA is already an alignment. It's here. It has been, again, working very finely for years. It's creating, again, the backbone of sovereignty for European payments. It's probably the most visible, tangible effect of European Commission or the European Union for citizens and businesses alike. And I would say it's probably laying also the foundation for the next wave of sovereignty, or the way European payments are going to move forward again. But if you think about wallets and what's happening with Wero, Europa, Bizum, Vips, and all of those, and all the ways they also want to get interoperable, all of that relies, I would say, on the SEPA rails. One more thing which I think is also very important, you've seen the rise since entry into force of the instant payment regulation. That instant payment, which is also part of the SEPA regulation, is making significant headways. I was not having dinner. I met yesterday, a guy from the CEO from Bankart in Slovenia told me that 90% of the bank transfer in Slovenia were being done through instant payment, which is humbling from the French perspective, where we are still around 35-40%. But you see how, again, SEPA is creating this alignment, convergence, and into the context of political uncertainty or geopolitical uncertainty, the backbone and the foundations are already here.
You mentioned the backbone of sovereignty there. Would you say that the focus is now more on European sovereignty or global interoperability?
I would say, it's obviously a tricky question. I say it's both. And probably the foremost pressure about this sovereignty issue is with countries where you don't have any sovereign solutions. Obviously, as we just discussed, SEPA is everywhere, in every European country. But it's still not part of the day-to-day life of the European. When you go in stores and shops and so on and so forth, you pay with cash, you pay with cards. And if you look at the Eurozone or the European Union, out of the 27 countries in the European Union, only 9 of them have a domestic card scheme. And even if you look closer, except maybe for carte bancaire, which is a French domestic scheme, the other domestic schemes for cards, don't cover the full spectrum of use cases. Carte bancaire is able to deliver cash withdrawal, debit card, credit card, tokens. So all of that is pretty innovative, but that's not the case for the other cards domestic scheme. So where do we take it from there? Basically, it means maybe 3 things. First of all, as I said before, pressure on the countries when you have no sovereign solution. You start to have some private initiatives. Again, I mentioned the Vips, Wero of this, of which are developing right now. All of that, and despite the great success that SEPA is, this situation led the ECB, with other factors, to launch the digital euro. So that's also part of the consequence, I would say, of this lack of sovereignty. We will see more interoperability, like we described, because I'll give you 2 examples. There is one I already mentioned with instant payment enabled schemes and wallets. Next is, again, coming back to France, we have been experiencing co-badging and coexistence with international, between the domestic scheme and international card scheme for 40 years. And that's my personal maybe wishful thinking, but hope that we will continue into collaborating and partnering with between domestic scheme and international card schemes. We see more and more, I would say, areas of evolution. It's all started obviously with a piece of plastic, the chip. We moved into e-commerce. Now we are going and leapfrogging into agentic commerce. Hopefully we can maintain this collaboration. Ultimately, do you have more interoperability? It's still needed because we don't live, even in this digital age, in the same physical place. People travel, goods travel, information and data travel. So you need to be able to have interoperability. Probably for me, there is one between, again, the domestic scheme and ICSs. I very much like the network of networks that Discover has set out, which is a kind of ways, domestic schemes of all nations get unified. And that's also a way to see interoperability. So in a nutshell, obviously, big pressure for countries where you don't have, European countries where you don't have sovereign solution. You have interoperability at the wallet level, again, leveraging the SEPA rails. You'll still have cooperation, which is needed. And I would say you are not going to waste what you have built for the last 40 years. And, even wider interoperability between card schemes across the globe.
Really fascinating insight. You mentioned collaboration. What can banks and fintechs alike do to support SEPA and sovereignty specifically, do you think?
Okay, so this has been, again, a high and down relationship. You have seen, sometimes with a lot of arrogance, fintechs coming saying, we are going to destroy and displace traditional banks. And that's true. If you look at the Revolut, the N26, the Trade Republic of this year, they are really shaking the ground, setting the bar, and creating a new normal. And this is a great challenge for the existing banks in terms of matching up or closing the gap in terms of customer experience and offering and so on and so forth. So this is, I would say, here to stay. But I don't know of any banks who basically have declared the end of the war or of the battle. So all of the fintechs, and again, we are still in this tug of war. Obviously, no cooperation on one hand with this type of animals, and on the other hand, I would say great momentum from the banks. So that's probably one part of the situation. Other situation that we have seen is banks saying, we need to integrate, eat more of the fintechs, and that's also part of the capitalism way of doing things. You launch your startup, you try to be disruptive, and in the hope, hopefully, of making a big buck and being acquired. And we have seen a lot of instances where, because of time to market, because of technology, maybe because of mindset, banks have acquired fintechs. We see probably a third way now, so not the tug of war, not the full acquisition, which is more of cooperation. I could, at least I would like to share what STET is doing in AI for fraud management. We've partnered with Fizai, which is a Portuguese fintech. Yes, it's still a fintech, even it's quite big and sizable right now. And the question is not about tug of war, it's not about, acquiring them. It's about, again, partnering to make sure that we get the best of breed from this fintech, that we can grow from their specific knowledge and leveraging AI for fraud management, that we can also help them to decipher signal, look how the future could be challenging or needs to be adapted, especially when sovereignty is concerned and where in which cloud you will deploy a solution, and also bring what is, I would say, the strengths of legacy models or dinosaurs, which is in fact trust. And when you go to be in front of certain institutions, in front of certain big players, if you are only a fintech, it's difficult. If you are able to partner with, I would say, more regulated body or institution, then you are able to make these partnerships thrive.
Really interesting, a lot to digest there, and I just want to say it's been fascinating having this conversation. We can't speak to the rest of the day, but I want to thank you for your time. I know you've got a busy event to get back to, but thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Regis.
My pleasure. Have a nice day.
Thank you.